Mike Tomlin said yesterday that George Pickens has a, quote, real chance, end quote, to play on Christmas Day against the Chiefs. Should he? Should he? Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots on the Penguins and Pirates, the other two teams in town that I cover. Christmas is only, of course, 2 days away. And that means that whatever shape Pickens was in that kept him out of the game Saturday in Baltimore would have to make some significant either reversal or upgrade for him to be in any kind of reasonable shape against the Chiefs. Now, I'd say it's both fair and reasonable to wonder whether or not that should happen. George has the hamstring. Hamstrings don't heal quickly. The Steelers have already clinched a playoff spot. So the easy thinking here, and by the way, the thinking to which I happen to subscribe, is that George would be held out until the playoffs. Or at the soonest, he'd return the following week against the Bengals in the regular season finale, just so that you have him playing some kind of actual football before you get to the playoffs. But I'm not going to lie. I'd have a hard time with this one. I'd have a hard time with putting any of the injured or even the iffy guys back in against the Chiefs, but I could also be swayed to go the other way in a heartbeat. Why? Well, because this game is big too. And in some ways, it might be just as big as the one in Baltimore. For one, and I would hope this is obvious, but I'm not sure that it is, the principal objective in Baltimore was to win the division. Would it have been nice to do it against the Ravens in their place? Yeah, that'd have been awesome. Didn't happen. But the real takeaway would have been the division. Well, the division can't be clinched Wednesday, even if the Steelers win and the Ravens lose. It's still going to come down to the final week of the season. But for another, I really don't think it would be great for this team to get stuck in some sort of 3-game losing streak. Remember, this was the gauntlet that everyone feared back in May when the schedule was released. It was, oh no, this is going to be the thing that undoes the Steelers season. Well, it's obviously not going to be that because, again, they're in the playoffs. But what kind of shape do they take into the playoffs? Do they take into it that, we're okay against these so-so teams and we'll mop the floor with the New Jersey teams, but we're not really good enough to beat the better ones? Do they take into the playoffs that, hey, we're the division champs and we finished first in the division that a lot of people feel is the toughest in all of football? And as such, we do everything the tough way. See, that's just who we are. We're the Steelers. We're tough. We're back. We're going into the playoffs with some moxie. Or do you lose to the Chiefs at home on Christmas for your third loss in a row to a quality opponent? And by the way, to a quality quarterback. And then have that fester for another 10 days before you get to face the Bengals at home. And even the Bengals aren't exactly a cakewalk because Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are going to put up points on you. You know you're going to have to score. Well, what did they need last time? 44? You're probably going to need about 40. And you're going to need it probably out of nowhere because I don't see the Steelers scoring at anywhere near the pace that they were in that recent winning stretch that they had. And as horrific as the Cincinnati defense is, and it really is, that would take some significant revving up to reach that stage again. Now, it's easy for me to sit here and say, oh, got to go beat the Chiefs. Go beat the Chiefs. Get that done. I mean, there's a reason the Chiefs are 14-1. I could not care less that all kinds of unbelievable luck has gone their way. All kinds of, and this is coincidental, unbelievably beneficial calls have gone their way. I only care for the purposes of this conversation that the Chiefs just get it done. They do. And there is a reason for that. It's not just Mahomes. It's not just Travis Kelce. They've got a pretty good defense. Not great, but pretty good. They've got a pretty good overall supporting cast. Not great, but pretty good. And when you have legitimate greatness, two all-time greats, still driving the truck, Mahomes and Kelce, you're a pretty tough out. But I'm still going to be stubborn here and say that it had better get done, or all of this is going to begin really snowballing back into the Steelers' faces. Look, let's remember that a lot of what's happened here over the course of this still surprising, still positive season was built on the belief that the players and everybody involved had in each other and had in the overall process. How upset they were in Baltimore has me encouraged, because it has me feeling like, all right, we're blowing this. We're not executing correctly. We're not communicating correctly, but we still believe that the way we were doing things before was the right way. Just need to get back to that, or find a way to get to that with some of these new players that have come in, particularly on defense. That's good. That's what you want. So, get on it, because I think the game is kicking off in an hour or something. When we come back, J1Q. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims. The attorneys at Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly & George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Today's J1Q comes from Alex, who says, DK, did this game in Baltimore show how impactful Deshaun Elliott really is? Yeah, I'd say so, but I wouldn't just leave it at Elliott. I would say that it also showed how impactful Joey Porter's been, how impactful Dante Jackson's been, how impactful that whole secondary's been as a unit. Listen, when you're hearing players talk about communication issues, and then along the way, you're picking up hints and suggestions, as I did in that locker room, that it's about the new players who are on the field taking other people's places, and that maybe they're not all in, or that they didn't prepare themselves to be starters, or that they're not ready to make a similar commitment. They're telling you in their own way that the standard isn't the standard for everybody. Now, I'm not about to sit here and pick through the names of everybody who was replaced and what their roles were and everything else, because to be honest with you, it's really not worth anybody's time. They're backups for a reason, and most teams' backups are performers at that level, give or take. There really aren't a whole lot of Nick Herbigs out there, backups who you feel confident could be or should be starters. That's the nature of a salary cap sport. But in this game, and this does feel like it's just been ignored, is that by the second half of this game, it was just Minkah out there. Minkah Fitzpatrick did have his first interception in forever. He also was tasked with playing closer to the line of scrimmage than what he'd been asked to do for a couple of years now. Well, if everybody was healthy, Elliott would have been that guy. Elliott's usually that guy. Elliott loves being that guy, and Elliott's really, really good at being that guy. When you don't have him, it's DeMonte Casey, who isn't that guy. He's a competitor, he's fiery, he's got all kinds of spirit, but he doesn't have Elliott's tackling. Elliott's finish. And then from there, I mean, you saw it. You saw the way guys were getting open in the secondary. You saw how Lamar Jackson had his pick of guys who were open in that secondary. And if that's James Pierre's fault, okay. If that's Corey Trice's fault, whatever. If that's Casey's fault, you're either going to get some or all of these guys back in time for the Chiefs. And again, I wouldn't count on that, especially in Joey's case, since he was kind of set off into his own injury bracket yesterday by Mike Tomlin. You just got to put it together. I mean, you're going from Lamar, who's a better pocket passer than he gets credit for, to Mahomes, who is Mahomes. And it's a tall task on all fronts. So yes, to answer your question, it's not just Elliott. All of those guys, all four of them, including Minkah, by the way, deserve credit for the way they've mostly been good for the Steelers as a secondary. You don't always notice that until something's gone missing. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. Don't forget, this afternoon we've got a double shot coming your way in both video and audio form. This show will be back tomorrow.